Welcome to ACO Chess. My name is Ruben Salim, and today we're going to cover a game from the World Cup. Jan-Krzysztof Duda, a prodigy, managed to outplay some of the elite players to win the World Cup and get a chance to challenge the world champion Magnus Carlsen in the next cycle. And it was very refreshing to see someone from outside the elite players which we are used to, stand a chance to go and toe-to-toe with these players and completely outplay them. So I thought we should show you one of the games which he won against Karjakin, which won him the World Cup title. And he was playing white. This was the second game, which would be the decider. If they tied, they would have gone to tie breaks. But with this one, he managed to win the game, which then secured him the championship. He opened the game with d4, and very unlike Karjakin, he played the semi-taraj, which is quite a double-edged system, not usually his Nims or Queen's Indian setups, which we are used to seeing. And here, the line he played in particular is not a very common one. He goes for the one where you take on d4 and immediately accept the isolated pawn. And very soon, Duda gets in this move, bishop takes f6, which is a new move in this position, which I am quite certain was very surprising for Karjakin, because previously Giri had played the move castles, which actually got him a very nice win against Wang Yu after bishop takes. And we saw a transformation from an isolated pawn to what is called an isolated pair, which, of course, if you've studied these positions, it requires a specific handling to exploit it, and Giri demonstrated how to do it very well in that position against a player of Wang Yu's class. And after bishop d7, he took on f6 and then occupied the weak c5 square and went on to win a nice game. So I'm sure it must have been surprising, because in a line where white won like that, you wouldn't really expect someone to find an improvement. And bishop f6 looks like it definitely puts some pressure on black, because Karjakin is known for his defensive abilities, and here he just breaks down as if he was not a very strong player. And I think his problem starts on when he takes on b2. It was maybe accurate and more precise to start with a6, and perhaps after bishop takes c6, here I checked this. So after queen b5, the queen has to exchange because white won't be able to castle, and after take, he has to play a3, otherwise he castles, the pawn is returned. So he plays a3, and we reach this position after, of course, you don't want to exchange rooks because b2 then falls, or you generate other new weaknesses. And here after a3 take, you get c6, but in this type of setup where 3 against 4 in a rook ending, it's practically impossible to convert this into a win. So it would eventually end up as a draw. So bishop b2 was maybe not as accurate. And the fact that at this point Duda played king e2 means he was probably well prepared for this position, because a normal continuation would be to castle, maybe rook fd8, bishop c4, and bring the rooks to the open file. But king e2, you need to have at least looked at a position like this to have an idea of what's happening in terms of where to play species, how to play, and grandmasters usually do. So bishop f6, rook h d1, rook h c8, and bishop c4. In opposite colored positions, opposite colored bishop positions, whoever is the attack, usually it appears like they've got an extra piece. And here, this is what Duda wants to take advantage of in this position. f7 is a weak spot. Once you get a rook on d7, there's always going to be a rook tied to the defense of this f7 pawn. So queen b4, and this is a very unusual move, because you would think that before the attack starts, you would maybe perhaps try to either play rook fd8 or rook a d8, exchange something, maybe rook c d8, something like this, and reduce the power of the initiative that white has. But black doesn't do this. He instead tries to exchange queens, which Duda doesn't mind, but he wants to do it on his, you know, at his own will, and at the same time threatening to still play rook d7, put more pressure on f7. Karjakin takes, and now rook d7. Maybe it's actually just simply best met by playing rook fd8. Of course, white will play rook d7 anyway, but you exchange one pair of rooks and maybe perhaps defend like this. It's a tough position, but knowing the kind of positions that Karjakin has defended in the past, this is not really a stretch of imagination to say he could possibly defend this position. But he played knight b8, which is a backward move. It does protect the entry square d7, but at the same time it keeps all the pieces passive and gives some initiative to white after g4, clearly intending g5 and h6. In the interview, I heard Duda saying that h6 might have been the biggest mistake or compromise that black made. So h4, g5, and now he has to move backwards. And Duda has really calculated well this position, because normally you wouldn't want to play this position because knight c6 comes. But it turns out that after rook to d7, you can't actually take on e5, because after knight e5 you still have to do something about this bishop. If you do it like this, he takes on g6 and you're losing a piece. You can't take because of this pin. If he plays rook here, there's bishop f7 and you're losing that. And if if bishop c5, then there's knight f7. I mean, in any way you look at it, the position is just falling apart. So a very nice touch and very good foresight. So after bishop d8, rook here, knight a5, you would think b6 is better, but after bishop d5, he's going to play rook b2, rook c8 and put pressure. It's not comfortable at all. So knight a5 is played, bishop d5 takes on f7. Very nice touch. The point is that if the rook takes, then rook d8 check, and the position is falling apart. a5 is being picked up. So bishop f7, king g, and rook takes, After bishop d5, Karjakin did not see any reason to continue, as this position is completely lost. And a very nice win for Duda, the new sort of face in part of the elite group. He's been playing for a while, but I think this was such a nice win. He called it the best performance of his life, and I think he's right. I do expect more, because after beating the world champion, beating Karjakin, he could possibly say he has ambitions to become the future world chess champion.